Sorry about that, folks. Ran into a little bit of technical difficulties, but we are still here getting started. Everything right from the rip here at 0 seconds. Everybody going back to their respective positions. We're making sure if there's an invade or whatever goes on, that it's going to be caught. And we most likely could find that, especially with the setup here towards the top. We already see Rome Destroyer and Wrath looking right into each other's eyes saying, all right, buddy, I know you're there.
Yeah, a little banter in all chat as well between some of these teams. We're in game 3 rather. UBC, Jade looking to try and get their first win here this split. GFU looking to try and go even right now as they're currently 1-2. Both a lot on the line here in this third game. They're just trying to finish strong.
I mean, most definitely. They want to find themselves at least get some kind of more wins here on the board because, I mean, as we mentioned earlier at the start of this entire series, that we feel like both these teams were a little lackluster when it came to their entire just from start to finish. And, I mean, with them mentioning the top lane and the jungle, I mean, obviously Rome Destroyer, he's been a huge influence in the entirety of this series. And him being on the Volibear, I feel like I haven't personally seen a little bit too much influence out of a Volibear jungle pick, but honestly, with Rasai there towards the middle running this Vex, we already see a little bit of damage going out, and just how impactful this girl can really be once you let her roam free.
Right, and the Ignite means, again, Rasai is looking for the kill, looking for blood in this lane, especially because the early power is not bad, especially running the Electrocute Keystone means you get that nice little extra burst. We combine that with the fear when that red bar under her health bar is full is, woo.
It's just, you can't really beat it, man. And the fear of all the crowd controls to choose from the likes of Riot, the one where you just cannot play the game, and it being ready every 20 seconds, it's like, how can I really go ahead and play against this? But, I mean, when we're speaking of plays, when we're speaking of whole contestants going on here in the top lane, they really want to find themselves a little bit more to work off of because they are going to find a little bit of a scuffle. But when we're speaking scuffles, we see one in the bot lane, and we already see Questil already falling, finding himself to die once to the likes of Alpaca with that Ignite. And honestly, Akana and Balyeet are looking for a trade of their own.
Yeah, it's this is kind of the power of that bottom lane. This Seraphine Tristana from Gatekeeper and Alpaca to just take control of this bottom lane. You can see Questil only has 7 CS at the moment, losing a good chunk of this wave. And man, like, it is tough already. So much pressure being felt by the bot lane of UBC Jade.
Yeah, and with that tower plating also, that's an extra bit of gold for both of these guys to work off of as well. I mean, that's massive when you don't only find the 400 of that first blood, because it's not 300, it's 400 off of that first blood. And then the extra impact of the 80 for each one of those players, it's going to be massive, especially here in the early stages, because we're already going to see that's pushing Berserker's Greaves already for this Tristana. As we can see the double long swords coming out, a little bit more power to come through with what we still only see a Durance Blade out of Questil, which is going to be a massive power spike just in comparatively in this early stage.
Yeah, and Gatekeeper will be coming back to lane with that double longsword. Already a big problem for Questil, who died with 7 CS, so there was really nothing to purchase except maybe some potions, which would have been a waste at that point. So lane just got that much harder for the bot lane of UBC Jade. So far, Rome Destroyer has opted for the full clear top to bottom. I want to see if he's going to potentially try and make a play on the bot side of the map, utilize some of that early pressure, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with that pressure comes a little bit more scuffling, a little bit more damage to come through as well. You just got to consider how much of it could really come out, how much of it can actually become an impact, and how much of it can actually be dished out to give yourself an edge to some extent. And we don't really see too much unless we're really just discussing this bot lane. And as they're trying to double down, we got the slows coming through. Quiet still trying to back out on himself, and Wrath to come in here and help out on that Sejuani play. You got a little bit more help out of Rome Destroyer saying, all right, I'm jungle too. I need to go ahead and come down to this bot lane, have a counter gank of my own to keep my teammates alive, because with Quiet still already locked out in some extent, no summoner spells to work with now, he's a little bit stressed and a little bit strewn too thin right now.
Yeah, you could certainly say that. And interestingly enough, this top lane matchup, which we didn't get to talk about too much. Akuna running this Mordekaiser, which you don't see too often in organized play, seems to be doing pretty well even though he's pushed in. He's winning out on HP trades. He's got a CS lead. He's got a lot going for him here. You know who doesn't though? Fennec. Also,
and maybe Oreos as well, as he looks like he could possibly get locked out and find himself to be dead quite soon. But it's Wrath. I mean, all the damage to be dished out in such a quick manner for two of these laners, two people in two different respective positions to go ahead and recall. That's going to be massive when really considering the impact that's going to have, because that's going to give GFU themselves a little bit more to work with. That's going to give a potential roam for the side of Wrath into this other respective jungle. And honestly, as he's not going to take that shot just yet, it won't matter too much as you see the bottom lane find themselves a little bit more CS and really just double down on this reward they grabbed off that drag.
Right, and dragon stacking, very viable here for GFU Blue. At this point, especially because they are lacking in lane prowess in some areas, it's not bad to be able to just focus on some of these neutral objectives here. We saw a brief clip of it. Wrath really struggling to gank in the mid lane because when you do dash, like Sejuani's Q does, you actually are able to be feared by Vex. So it's pretty hard if you are a mobile champion or if you have any mobility to be able to actually jump on top of her. And that's why you see this 20 CS lead building here for Rasai. And the fact that even though he hasn't been able to get a kill yet, pop that Anivia passive, he's just fully in control here.
Yeah, and that in itself is a lot to play with when you're really considering the big scheme of stuff, because Anivia, she's not going to have too many dashes in herself or any at all, so that's not too big of a concern, but it's the whole Q factor and how much damage it can do, how much the fear can really make an impact, and when you have no mana like Rasai does right now, it's a little bit concerning to know that you have Wrath trying to come here onto the lane and give themselves a little bit more of an edge and possibly the kill to work with, but able to make it out, able to go ahead and say, look, I need to go ahead and know when to cut my losses, find myself a little bit more gold, find a way to go ahead and spend that and get back into this lane and find some kind of edge to play with, because we haven't even seen the passive out of Fennec yet. We haven't seen her go into egg form yet, so she can stay on lane as long as she wants to.
No, yeah, that's true. Although you're probably sitting on a good amount of gold here. I suppose you're waiting to be able to get that lost chapter as soon as you can, because that's usually when a lot of these mages who have mana problems start to actually be able to have more of an impact on the lane. And there it is, lost chapter coming out. Fennec about to have a lot more agency in this lane, and I'm excited to see how these trades are going to play out, especially now that he'll have more mana to use the R as well.
And that really felt like a free gank for Roam Destroyer right there, knowing how much Gatekeeper was pushed up. I mean, that's what you're starting. She can go ahead and leap out of that fight, but when you got Seraphine and Alpaca there just trying to go ahead and really just only has the only slows to work with in her kit, that's going to be something to really isolate and something to really play off of, but we don't see it just yet. We see him kind of looking for this recall, looking for a little bit more items to play with Sheen being the only thing in his arsenal right now. I really can't blame Roam because, I mean, he's been a great player so far. He's shown to make a lot of good plays. I honestly can't go ahead and think of a reason why he won't make the most of this, but you have to consider the rest of these teams, how well they're going to hold in these lanes. And speaking of doing well in these lanes, we see Akana just really going at it, finding a way to just lock down Battle Yeet, pushing him further away from his tower to some extent, just buying out some more time for this old mid laner to come up and help out a little bit more, to buy some time with the TP coming through. And maybe now that we have Anivia there and Sejuani here in the fight, that's going to force him to say, let's go. Let's get ourselves a little bit more ultimates in this fight. Let's actually get ourselves a kill, as Fennec is going to find himself that first. Give him a little bit more to play with, some damage to go ahead and double it down with it, force these guys out of this lane.
And that was a nice play coming out here from GFU Blue. Wrath, who is in the right place at the right time. Fennec, who responds with the teleport, end up coming out on top here and giving a small lead and a much-needed injection of gold into this Anivia, who's down roughly 20 CS at the moment here and is still not picking up any as he's assisting with that Rift Herald. Hopefully goes back to mid soon and farms away that stacking there, just so you can try and catch up in farm, so you can keep up in XP compared to Rasai here. But overall, taking that teleport's really showing its value.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Everything coming through for him. And we just see GFU doing a much better job in these early stages, just overall, when it comes to every single matchup. And especially grabbing a dragon this time, that's something that's been a big factor going through here. I feel like it's something that's kind of subtle when you see the back and forth of dragons, but honestly, the way they sit there and find themselves to grab one, I feel like so long as they can find these team fights, find more ways to win these, as we already saw in that top lane once, if they can continue that momentum, show those rotations time and time again, and show how much better they are of manipulating the field, especially with this Rift Herald going down, that's going to be a lot to work with.
That it is extra plate gold, 1 picked up by Fennec, 2 more picked up by Wrath. Means now we're really starting to pick up some gold on GFU's side here with this dragon coming up. And Fennec not going for the recall, actually. I was going to say it'd be an awkward timing because you probably want to go for this dragon. Your team is here to help.
Yeah, they are, but it just comes down to really, can they make too much out of that help? Because Rasai's already going to go ahead and get picked off. Oreos are going to be shoved out a little bit too far for his own good to go ahead and find his way back to the bot lane to say, all right, let's go ahead and give out this drag, because quite honestly, we are not contesting that one.
Oh, look at Akuda. He's looking to see if he can get Rome Destroyer in the area to just take him into the Death Realm so that he can't smite. Oh my god, well, he can't smite if he's dead?
No, he most definitely can't. And as we see the rest of the team trying to go ahead and win out a 5v2, it's just not going to be too well, because we're going to see Battle Eye falling. Oreos is going to try and finesse himself out of that battle. He will make himself out alive for another day, but quite honestly, the way GFU is just rolling this right now with so many kills to play off of, we see 6 for their squad and 2 dragons at that. Honestly, this game is speeding up a little bit too much for UBC to really consider what they can play off of, because now with the middle tower falling as well to back it up, you got extra gold. You know what? It's like Oprah Winfrey show. Check under your seats, GFU, because we got some gold there for you.
Yeah, and they won't actually stay and overcommit. It is sharing plate gold between 5 people, so it's not amazing, but it is nice. You do pressure Rasai off this wave, and you do make it so that if Fennec makes another play, wins another 1v1, then he will be able to take that turret more than likely, and that extra gold will be so great. The thing is now, though, you do got to be careful. That Anivia passive is not there, so you got to be really careful about your HP.
Yeah, I mean, especially at this stage now, when you know that so many of your players really just don't have 2 things. And the 2 essential things you need to have some kind of lead, that's going to be health and that's going to be power. And honestly, with Rasai already getting choked out to some extent, getting away almost, as we see Fennec barely hanging on there, but with that passive still up, honestly, I don't think he's really too concerned about this fight. He wants to pick it time and time again to know that I have the 2 things I needed. Health, and I have power. So let's go ahead and run this one, buddy.
Right, and I like that Fennec is not afraid to go for these trades, especially trade aggressively with that flash. And now that the Leandres has come through, it's a big spike for this champion. And dude, once we get to the Seraph's Embrace, the fully stacked Archangels, oh my god. The damage is actually going to be like really gross. If any one of those abilities land, someone is probably going to lose their life on the side of UBC Jade. And at the moment, the fact that GFU are stacking dragons as well, they're up 3k in gold. Everything is just going in their favor.
Oh, I mean, when you say everything, quite literally everything. I can't find a single lane right now that's really just giving UBC themselves some kind of edge or some kind of breath of life here, because everything's stacked up just really into their favor. Usually it's kind of an underestimate. We're just kind of overestimating it to some extent, playing around with the idea, but with everything going through here, Oreo's already just being so low for Rat to pick off. We do see Rome Destroyer trying to make the most of this fight to play with there, but with Rasai coming through with that follow-up, they will finally get themselves a kill onto the board. But at what cost? When you know that this bot lane is falling through a little bit too fast, you know the TP's coming through now for Akina, and he wants to be here in the action. He wants to find a little bit of blood himself, as Fennec will go ahead and find himself another kill. Rome Destroyer on the outside saying, all right, I get it. I was a little bit overzealous there, but we don't need your whole team here to wipe us out.
Yeah, you say that, but they're looking for it, Mick. This wave coming through, all it's going to take is one landed ability, and that is going to be the one.
And we can just see right now, man, they don't care. There's so much.
They don't die.
They feel like they're just so stacked that gods can't bleed at this stage, but they most definitely can, as we see UBC getting 2 more kills. It's this kind of overzealousness that scares me because GFU, they have such a massive lead. I mean, obviously, you want to go for these towers. You want to find a way to really just shove a whole salt mine into that wound, but you can't do it at the cost of your own kills and giving them so much to play with because now, Gatekeeper, he's going to fall to Rasai as well, giving them that much more to work with as they now sit at 4 kills instead of that 1 2 minutes ago.
That's right, and it's insane how much you can catch up with, especially when you do go for those, like you said, overzealous dives for the side of GFU. If we look at the gold, though, they're still ahead a good amount. You have these first item spikes starting to come through on a lot of members on the side of GFU. So in terms of like lane power and fighting power, they're still pretty good as long as they find these good engagements. And now we're going to test that theory, Mick, because we have that Cloud Drake spawning very quickly. It's being pinged by the members of GFU Blue because they want that soul point. They want to be able to threaten that Cloud Dragon soul that's going to come up here.
And quite honestly, I can't blame them, and it's something they really need. It's something they want to go ahead and find a way, as we said earlier, to rub a little bit more salt into the wound, because the way they have the edge, they kind of lost it to some extent. But if they find themselves a dragon, and honestly, with the Rift Herald there as well, I see a little bit more influence towards that top river. So I feel like that's what's being eyed right now, especially with these 2 members, these 2 junglers kind of going at it a little bit. It's somewhat of a scuffle. You need a little bit more to work with. And quite honestly, the way Akin is set up towards mid, he's going to be in a great stage to rotate, putting Rasai at such a small health pool that they're not really too concerned about this, knowing that whatever fight they pick, and with the members all kind of struggling to some extent and everybody very healthy on the side of GFU, they can go ahead and pick whatever they want.
That they can, and now what they're actually going for is the Rift Herald at the top side of the map. Interestingly enough, they don't want to skirmish for the dragon, and they're going to let Roam Destroyer go for that solo. But they're going to grab the Herald. They want to make plays for turrets. They're looking for these neutrals. They're looking for these objectives outside of the dragon here. And actually, because they got to know the dragon is being taken, GFU could make a Herald play mid, much like they did in previous games.
And with bot lane taking that sacrifice to go ahead and say, we'll buy out the time you need, buddy. We'll pop this ult. We'll go ahead and get a little bit more CC, and we'll both survive. Throw it down wherever you need to. That mid lane is already so hit up and so damaged right now.
Yeah.
Find yourself 2 towers. Heck, even 3 with the way they're clearing this lane right now. You got your top tower, your mid laner, your top laner, everybody going through right now, playing into this mid lane push on the Rift Herald to grab themselves 3 hits. Honestly, that was worth the exchange of 1 dragon when you're already up 2.
And the best part about it, too, is that you live through that 2v4 scenario, 4-second Gatekeeper and Alpaca, and because you lived through it, I mean, you just buy so much time. It's so easy for the Rift Herald to charge that tier 2 to get the kill, to charge the inhib turret as well, which is in a really low HP point here. You're just picking up so much gold off these towers for GFU Blue. Now, nope, they are recalling, it looks like. I thought they were making a bush play.
I think they're kind of sticking around for it. They're like, okay, we'll go ahead and recall, but I mean, if they really do want to push up this far, we'll take and make the most out of it. But with everything stacking up right now, with those recalls going out last second, we're going to see Fennec actually possibly able to get picked off here. He hasn't died yet. He has a massive bounty, and he actually managed to survive for a second there. So as the Cho'Gath ultimate is actually going to not go through just yet, it's going to go ahead and stick around there to find himself one. Fennec will manage to get a kill because you just draw out that time. You allow him to survive. Instead of playing around games, Fennec will make one of his own.
Yeah, that's best case scenario. The Archangel Staff has been purchased, immediately upgraded to that Seraphs. Man, Fennec is huge right now. Huge. And when those Sork shoes, which is I gotta imagine what he'll be going for, come through, that extra magic pen, people are gonna start exploding, popping like balloons, Mick.
Oh, popping like balloons? If we're comparing these guys to balloons, I want to compare that we've already sat there and stuck the needle in every balloon before it's even blown up. So, I mean, you can't even put air in these guys right now. They are getting off the ground literally not at all right now. So much is robbed away from them. It feels like they're just kind of choked out right now. Every single attempt they make, they get inflated a little bit, but they just always start to sink down a little bit from those efforts that GFU's making right now. They're just shutting these guys this down and making sure they just can't get off the ground in any form or fashion, especially with this kind of top play coming through. This could finesse a little bit, but so as Akane gets a little bit closer to his tower, it doesn't have all that much to work with. We're still going to see UBC and these two players saying, all right, honestly, he's kind of stacked. Man, sitting at 2-1, we barely have that amount of kills just of us combined. Let's not pick on the guy.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like, Volibear does have that Divine Sunder complete, but I don't know if they actually do win that one out here. So now we actually see the fight coming through.
Oh, we most definitely will, and it just comes down to this. I mean, we already see Roam Destroyer just being forced out so quickly. He's already going to have to get an ult through, but with the rest of the team there and with the heals out from Seraphine, you really don't have too much of a concern because that's going to be a tower fell. You're going to have so much more to work with. Fennec really just soloing here down on the bot lane. The only push coming through for the side of UBC is going to be that mid out of Rasai, but honestly, I don't know if it's enough to compensate for the massive losses you're taking towards the top.
Probably not, to be honest. And Fennec is still getting the push here. That's the big thing.
Oh, my God.
Oh, they just keep going.
I mean, I can't blame them, dude. Just don't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Just the way they're playing this game right now, they're pushing into every single lane. They are finding an edge everywhere. We still see Fennec towards that bot lane. He's already shoved out MF, said, look, we need help on the top lane. It's like, but what about the Anivia down bot? We'll get Rasai to take care of him because he will finesse that ultimate. He'll make sure to get the guy dead to some extent. But only issue is, how long would that last? You know the Dragon's coming up here in 45 seconds. You know they're going to want to bite back to some extent. When they still have players alive, they're probably going to go ahead and eye it.
Right, but look at the vision that GFU have on this bottom side of the map already. You're seeing some pink wards out, just a deep vision line set in the jungle of UBC Jade. So it's hard to imagine that this dragon is actually on the table for UBC. Unless they move right now, you know Wrath is on reset. You just watched it take place if you're Roam. So you just immediately start moving down and try to get control of this river. That's the best bet you have. The problem is you're lacking some key ultimates here. You don't have the Vex ult. You don't have the Stormbreaker from Roam. So some of that sustain and DPS isn't going to be there.
Yeah, and quite honestly, mentioning those ultimates is a really good point because, I mean, you see that old UBC, they're slacking themselves in 2 ults, but honestly, I feel like when you're really looking at ultimate impact right now, Fennec having his constantly available, the longer you draw out this fight, Alpaca's coming up on his as well. So that's going to be more to work with. Seeing that the rest of the team comes through, they find themselves a dragon to work with. And with all these ultimates finally coming out, I don't think the MF has enough damage to deal because that's going to force the team back a little bit. Rasai will find one, but the rest of the team following through, having that crowd control to work off of, they're going to find themselves Wrath. And with the follow-up, honestly, we see UBC able to finesse themselves a second, but with Fennec versus Roam Destroyer, this is a 1v1 that Roam can actually win.
Oh. And he's good, but Fennec is the one who actually comes out on top. He picks up that triple kill, which is insane. And I think the biggest thing about this one, even though this fight was scrappy, Wrath doesn't miss the smite. That's 3 Drakes here. That's Cloud Soul Point for GFU Blue. And because of these decently long spawn timers and this wave pushing through, Fennec might be able to actually threaten this tier 3 turret. We're at a point where I think you can comfortably take the inhibitor as well. But actually, HP is a little low. Rasai is back on the map. I think you take this turret and walk away.
Quite honestly, I'm with you. Just go ahead and respect it. Leave it open a little bit. Find yourself more space to work with. Honestly, don't go for the inhibitor just yet. With how much influence you have in the entire map, go ahead and look to shut down these other towers. Find yourself that bot lane. Go ahead and get a little bit more influence there. Find a way to shut down all 3 inhibitors at once to where you become so much of an overwhelming force. There's absolutely nothing UBC can do at that stage.
No, and it's feeling like we're already kind of at that stage here where you do have good power because at this point here with the Vex at around this 2-item mark, but it's so hard when you get the fight you're looking for with GFU Blue. It's so hard for you to get on top of this Tristana. It's so hard, even on a good fight, to get on top of Fennec, as we saw in that previous fight. And now, because of all that pressure, they just moved topside. There was no vision. They took the Baron. It was so easy. And now, GFU Blue are just going to ARAM it.
I mean, quite honestly, I can't blame them. Everything going through for them right now, the way you have Fennec absolutely fed. So much damage to be dished out by that Storm, that ultimate, that's a toggle, and it's an AoE effect. You know, right there on the edge, Battle Yeet has not found enough characters eaten just yet. He's only gotten himself 3 kills, and I mean, and who knows how much of an impact it's made. With Rasai, he will make an impact to some extent, but when you still have Fennec in this fight, with the way he's fed, also finding himself another, he, at this stage, looking at the amount of items that he has in his arsenal, he's not concerned at all. They're just going to go ahead and stack up, find the rest of these towers as much as they can, go ahead and bully these guys to such an extent where UBC is just going to be sitting inside their fountain for the rest of the game.
Right, and no Vex means you can just look to keep fighting, although that's a big combo.
Oh, it most definitely is, but with Egg Nivea still alive, actually able to fall there to Battle Yeet, he'll grab himself an ultimate, but at what cost? Because you know the rest of his team is not going to be there, not alive. And as we already see the entire ace coming through, Rasai coming up here in a little bit, but honestly, I don't know if it'll be enough. With the Baron buff there in their hands, being on this last tower, Rasai has to make a play. His character may be a little busted right now, but is it busted enough to go ahead and flip this game on its head?
There's no ultimate yet, so it's going to be hard. They can just auto the Nexus. I think that's it. GFU Blue won the game.
That will be the conclusion of this best of 3 here for UBC and GFU. Quite honestly, that last game did not go how I expected it to. I mean, everything coming out, and we saw UBC really make the game twist on its head in that last series, or in that last map, excuse me. I was expecting a little bit more out of them, but the way the overwhelming force came through, I said it earlier at the start, I don't feel like the Volibear as a jungle was going to be all that impactful. I mean, we saw Rasai on the Vex get a couple kills here and there, ending up out of 5 and 6 and 4. Definitely had some plays there, definitely had a little bit of help and made some, good here and there, but at the end, I mean, the way they just followed themselves through, absolutely punished them for going for any objective or really just slipping up at every angle. We saw them. They just straight dove into towers there to say, we are so fed at this point, who cares?
I think the thing with Volibear jungle is you need to do something in those early levels. You can't just full clear, reset, full clear, reset. And to be fair to Rome, part of the thing you want to do a lot of the times is commit your flash to your one of the early ganks. Flash Q, immediate stun. It's so easy for you to blow them up no matter what lane you go to. Rome, though, was getting caught out a good bit, had to blow his flash defensively, and never really had an option to go for that kind of aggressive play you want to on this champion.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Not enough damage output, not enough really influential ganks, I feel like, overall, especially with that first pick that we saw Quietstill get just fall out so instantaneously against that Seraphine that it's really at this stage, it's like, all right, I'm already locked out of this game. I'm only sitting at 7 CS. This guy's going to triple me by the time I even get on the lane. He's going to find himself a tower plating as well. It's like, come on, man. You're my support. You got to hold the line as best you can, and we just didn't see that out of Rakan at all because we did not see Oreos switch up his role or his entire champ at all. It was Rakan, and I was not really bought into that ideology enough, and I wasn't sold enough on that champ tonight to really warrant going for it 3 times in a row.
There, I think there were other issues on UBC Jade's side when it comes to draft. I personally don't take issue with the Rakan that much. I even thought this draft was pretty winnable for them. But this early game just kind of fell apart in every respect. Usually the problem we see with this team is good early game, things kind of fall apart. But in this game, it wasn't even that. We got a 25-minute finish, which is pretty early considering the average game time here at NECC. So I think this UBC we're just not able to get anything going here.
No, I'm most definitely with you. So with GFU finding themselves the dub here for this week, they will find themselves a second win now within the series, putting themselves even. But honestly, they got to carry through. They got to get a little bit more here because tonight I just wasn't really convinced by either one of these teams of what they can bring to the table. But it's still towards the early stages in the season, just like the early stages of the game that we saw. And there's a lot more time to really flip the entire series or the entire season on its head. So with that being said, we will find ourselves getting to a close here tonight. You've been joined by myself as Mick, and over to my right, okay, maybe we got ourselves right that time. It was Beatdown Boulevard, and it's always a pleasure working with you, dude. I can't even just put enough influence on that. You're such a great caster. It's such a great honor to work with you and to be here on the stage tonight. I know we had a little bit hiccups here and there, but I mean, regardless, we're going to come back better than ever next week, and we hope to see you there to join us for a little bit more NECC action here on for Friday night. We'll catch y'all later.